succeed if we are a global team. And that's why I'm so excited to be here, because I already learned so much from talking with colleagues, from students, that there are the same engaged minds, creative minds here than everywhere in the world. So I'm very excited about maybe extending, growing this type of collaboration that we definitely have in our future. And with that, I thank you for your attention, and I'm very open to questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, give big applause for Prof. Bovin. Okay, please have a seat next to me. Would you like to have a seat next here? Okay. We move to Q&A sessions. Maybe we have 3 questions for 15 minutes. And if you have any comment or feedback or question, please raise your hand. Okay, that one. Please, comedy, give the microphone. And a second question. And the first one over there. Okay, third question. Okay, we are going to the first question. Please say your name and your institution.
First, let me introduce myself. My name is Cecilia Mulyadi. I'm a student in University Maritime of Raja Ali Haji, Faculty of Engineering, and I'm majoring naval architecture. My question is, as we know, microplastic have become a worldwide a pollution problem. Can you explain in detail how microplastics can be formed and distributed in the ocean? And what are the impacts that can occur if microplastic was consumed by humans? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you want to answer. Okay.
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. And the question is, how do microplastics enter the ocean, and what effect do they have on any life in the ocean? So the sources of microplastics are so many. For example, there are these microplastic beads that are being used by industry to make final products. So these beads are sold in huge quantities in different colors and different sizes. And it turns out that many of these beads are being dumped in an inappropriate way, meaning instead of being used or landfilled, they end up in the water, in rivers, and then they're being transported into the ocean. So that's one source. The other source, of course, is people dumping trash, plastic bags, plastic bottles. For example, in my hotel room, every morning there are 2 plastic containers with water, which is great because I need to drink water, right? But these plastic bottles accumulate, so every day I produce more and more garbage. So where's this garbage going? In many instances it ends up in a landfill, that's great, but sometimes it escapes and then it gets into the ocean. And then in the ocean there are processes like the wave action that crush the plastics, make it in smaller materials, photooxidation, which makes the plastic brittle, and so on and so on. So once the plastic garbage is in the ocean, it breaks down by natural forces into smaller and smaller particles. And that's one of the many sources. And when these microplastics get eaten by fish, they accumulate because they don't get necessarily, how do I say this, pushed out the other end. So they end up in the fish, and if birds eat it, it ends up in the stomach of the birds. And ultimately, there are instances where birds have been found with their entire stomach full of plastic. And these birds have died from starvation because even so they ate a fish, they couldn't digest it because there was already plastic in their stomachs. It's a very sad story.
Okay, thank you for the answer and the question. And we move to the second question. The microphone, please, to the sir. Who's it?
Thank you. You just talk about the microplastics inside being eaten by fish and collected in the stomach, cannot be digested. Isn't it good? He's a microplastic collector.
Ooh,
we need them more.
Well,
sorry about that.
That's one way to get rid of the problem, right?
Okay, by the way, there's a degradation of soil. In US, it's about already 30% of agricultural land is get degraded. And at the same time, these microplastics in the sea water, will it make the sea water degraded as well? Because the microplastic itself, for sure, get degraded. Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. And I think there is no easy answer. The question is, shouldn't the microplastic degrade in seawater as well, like in the soil? And I guess the short answer is yes, it degrades, but the rate of degradation is too slow, meaning the rate by which plastic comes to the ocean is faster than the degradation rate. And that leads to an accumulation, right? And that's the issue. If the plastic was degrading very quicker than it was added, then we would have no problem. But the bottom line is more plastic is added than degrades, and that leads to an accumulation. So yes, it degrades, but not fast enough. And that's actually why researchers working on new types of plastics that degrade much quicker. That could solve the problem. So if we want to have plastics, then we should make plastic that degrades quickly. And then we have no more issues.
Yes, we are talking about the nano-sized materials, isn't it? And we do not know what physical state of this nano. Is it solid, liquid, or gas? We do not know. Do you know?
This is, again, research. The nanoparticles, the behavior of nanoparticles is very much not understood fully. There's so many questions like, do nanoparticles behave differently because their size could potentially allow migration through skin, through membranes, through tissue, an accumulation in parts of the body or parts of the tissue that microplastics cannot, because microplastics, they're small, but nanoparticles are even smaller. So when microplastics become nanoparticles, I don't have an answer. I mean, this is one of those many questions that we don't have really good understanding. So if anybody wants to do a PhD, that would be a good PhD paper, the effect of nanoscale plastics. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, because I'm experiencing the metals I push a piece of metal, a square, through a ECAP, equal channel angular press.
Sorry.
This is an experiment on the equal channel angular press. There's a metal being pushed through a bend, equal size of the passage. Push it, and in the bend there will be disruptions.
Yeah.
And nano coming out. And we have to treat it well because it will becomes grain again, get bigger again. What can we do with this nano size in the water?
Right.
Because again, the state in metal we cannot hold it.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's an issue where the detection of these particles is very difficult. So in order to design an experiment, you need to have a detection method. And if the detection method is not capable of detecting changes in the concentration of nanoparticles, then we cannot really study if there is removal or if there is reaction or if there is degradation. And I'm not an expert in nanoparticles, so forgive me if I don't have an answer. But when it comes to such small particles, we also have to consider issues like sorption, electrostatic interactions, which do not necessarily apply to microplastics, because microplastics are too large for many of these weak forces. But for nanoparticles, electrostatic interaction could be one way to remove those particles from the aqueous phase.
Oh, okay. Sorry for interrupting this very great discussion, but maybe both of you have, in the outset, have private discussion.
Absolutely.
Sorry, because we have limited time. So let's move to the, okay, all time's enough. Sorry for the last question. Okay. From the presentation of Prof. Bovin, there are several things that we need to pay attention to as residents of the Riau Island province, with the geographical condition of our islands, which consists of 96% of the ocean. So we live surrounded by the sea. So try to answer my question and just answer in your heart. Okay, have we taken care of our marine ecosystem? Have we littered the land and sea? Or maybe you have put waste to the land and sea. Okay, and are we consuming plastic every day? And do you have constantly use a reusable and eco-friendly shopping bag? And have we brought drinking tumblers everywhere instead of buying minerals in plastic bottles? Just answer in your heart as a self-reflection. So I think these questions are enough to rethink our contribution to our earth. Maybe we are as a saver or as a destroyer. And the keynote session has ended. I have to rhyme pantun as a closing. And Prof. Bovin, born in Germany, sometimes he loved travel to France. Thanks for your kindly attention. Hopefully we can meet in another chance. And one more, we must learn about what we did for having a better future and life in harmony. The keynote session with Prof. Bovin has ended. I will return to Ms. Tania and Mr. Aldi as the master of ceremony. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I apologize for any shortcoming, and hopefully we can get another chance. Thank you, Prof. Bovin.
Thank you so much for moderating. Thank you.
All right, thank you for Mr. Professor Thomas Bovin and our moderator today, Ms. Mirza Ayunda.
Please give a big applause. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is giving the souvenir. We kindly invited the Rector of Raja Ali Haji Maritime University, Mr. Professor Dr. Agung Damar Shakti, to go on the stage. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's give big applause for our keynote speakers today.